Welcome to the Nova Hoopcast, Kevin. It's 2020, so of course we're on Zoom because I think we live our whole lives on Zoom. So we're here at our homes. As of now, we're going to have a season. Today's Sunday, and basketball practices, tryouts are supposed to start tomorrow on Monday. So no better time for us to start the Hoopcast. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Like you said,
Hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Are you joking or?
Yeah, that's the Zoom joke. That everybody. Yeah.
I'm on mute. No, everything's good. Here as an assistant athletic director, we're getting ready for the season tomorrow. Excited about that. Really excited for the kids. I'm like a lot of people, a lot of coaches, a lot of people interested in, the winter sports that are starting. Wondering what's going to happen. A lot of people say, we're going to get started, but what happens when we get a case here at the school or another, school gets some kid with COVID. So we're just all waiting for the unknown, but excited to get started for sure.
That's funny you say that, Kevin, because, I'm still working with the school system. I feel like anybody who works in any capacity with the school system, you get asked all the time about, hey, what do you think is going to happen? Like, I have no idea.
Right. You know as much as I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Sure. And Brian, you've been up to some neat stuff. You are starting your own prep school, the Virginia Prep Academy. Tell me a little bit about that.
Virginia Postgrad Academy.
Postgrad.
Go to our website, virginiapostgrad.com.
Postgrad.
Yeah. So, obviously you and I love basketball. We've been involved in the Hoopcast and coaching and the Nova Challenge, all kinds of things over the years. And this really started after practice one day, probably last winter, sitting around talking hoops with Shaheen Dashti, who's our friend, who's he's an assistant at Fairfax and the program director of the Nova Cavs. We're just bouncing ideas around like you do after practice. And I said, we were talking about some of the prep schools in the area. And I said, there's not one right here for Northern Virginia kids. And so I started looking into it and took one step after another. And just with each step, I didn't find a reason not to do it. So, so I started Virginia Postgrad Academy, and we're going to start.
Do you actually have a school, or are you not?
We'll have access. So there's a million ways to do this, and some are affiliated with schools, and some are more affiliated with like facilities, and then they provide opportunities for kids to take classes. So we're going to be at it's the CYA Fieldhouse. It's the old Hoop Magic over in Chantilly. We've got an agreement with them. We have an agreement with Evolution Basketball, who's going to provide skill training for our guys. We have a strength trainer over there who's been a college level strength trainer, and it's going to run. And we have, Kevin, as you understand, you've been in education for a while. There's all kinds of online education providers. So I've got conversations going on with some of them to give kids an opportunity to either repeat some high school classes or to take some college classes online. But it's a basketball program. I mean, it's for kids that want to play on the college level, but for whatever reason, they feel like they need another year. And I honestly started thinking about this before COVID, and then COVID comes around, and I'm sure we'll talk about some of these issues later, but you have a whole class of kids, the class of 21, and 20 for that matter, but class of 21 that's missed out on a lot of their AAU seasons. Who knows? We know their high school season at the very least is going to be like compacted. And so it's impacted a lot of their opportunities to work on their game, but two, to get exposure in front of college coaches. And then on the NCAA level, the NCAA has granted kids, seniors this year, an extra year of eligibility. So if you're a college player and you're a senior, and this whole thing has upset everything for you, you can stay another year, a fifth year, and play. So that's going to have a major impact on recruiting. I mean, Kevin, if you're a college coach and you have a senior point guard and he just tells you he's coming back for another year and he plays for you, wouldn't you rather put the ball in his hands than in a 18-year-old college freshman?
Well, those kids coming in, don't really have the opportunity for a scholarship because they still have
right. So there will be roster spots that normally would be available to high school seniors coming in that that will not, because kids are going to come back and play an extra year of college. And that could happen at all three levels, Division I, II, and III. And it could take a couple of years for this to all kind of shake out. I don't know. There's so much unknown, not just in basketball, but in our world right now, of what it looks like when we come out on the other end of this thing.
Right.
But it certainly had a big impact in basketball. So anyway, all those factors just kind of pointed me in this direction. And I think, so I've been talking to a lot of coaches and players, and we want to start in September and run through February, March, and have, again, strength training, skills training, practice, an academic component, and play like a 30-game schedule against other prep schools and postgrad programs. So Virginia Postgrad Academy.
You have a website, last final plug?
VirginiaPostgrad.com.
There we go. I'm excited to hear about
Yeah, so we'll see.
We'll see how things, come in.
Yeah, I've been talking to some of the good players that we talk about on the Hoopcast. I've watched some of them work out. I've been talking to their coaches and talking to some of those kids. I've hosted a couple of them over at the field house. I don't want to give any names out, obviously now, but certainly if they come into our program, talk about them then. So it's fun. As a basketball junkie, it's been fun.
All right. Excited to hear about that more in the future. I want to start today with talking a little bit about some of the people who are playing. I was flipping around channels yesterday and saw one of my favorites from the NOVA Challenge, Nana Opoku, playing for Mount St. Mary's.
Mount St. Mary's. Played at Potomac.
He played at Potomac. He is a junior at Mount St. Mary's, and they've had a really tough schedule. I think they've started off with like VCU, Maryland, Navy.
Yeah.
But it's fun to see Nana out there, and he's a junior, and it got me thinking other alumni out there from Northern Virginia. You got any that come to mind when you think of D1 kids playing from our area?
Daniel Deaver from Marshall, playing at the Naval Academy. He had a huge breakout game last year. Remember, he came in, I don't think he had been playing a whole lot, and he came in and scored like 22 points one game or something like that. So he's averaging 5 and 2 off the bench. And I think he'll have a good career there, Kevin. It's Division I. Everybody's good. That's what people don't always realize until they get there. But I think he fits in well with them. I think he'll have a good career. James Butler from Lake Braddock has had, in fact, he started at Navy and then transferred to Drexel. And he's had a really nice career at Drexel. Led the CAA in rebounding last year, was 5th in the nation in double-doubles. I think he's averaging 9 and 8 so far for Drexel. So he's had a really good career. And it seems like he ended up, at the right place. Kevin, somebody you're familiar with from your Loudoun Valley days. You want to take him?
Sure, Jordan Miller. Yeah, had 30 points the other night. He's averaging 20 a game. They just had to shut their program down this week.
Yeah.
And we talked about what's going to happen with high school. We're seeing a little bit already happen on the college level. But, yeah, he had a 30-point game and a victory for George Mason. And he's a junior starter for George Mason and playing really, really well. I think he's somebody who could play, overseas and play professional at some point. But very happy for George. Great kid.
Quentin Malora Brown.
Yeah.
South County. So he was at O'Connell, right? Transferred to South County. Helped lead them to the state championship. Nice player, nice kid. Went to Rice and transferred after his first years at Vanderbilt now. The head coach at Vanderbilt, Kevin, is Jerry Stackhouse.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
NBA UNC star. Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if I see him back in the NBA as an assistant and working through that eventually, but he's at Vanderbilt now. So I think he started his first game, had 4 rebounds. He's a good player. I like his game. He's passes the ball well. He can do a little bit of everything. So he's at Vanderbilt. Kevin, next. You want to take the next one?
Yeah, I got a couple here. I'll give a couple that you can go. I like Francis Richmond. He is been a starter for the last couple of years. He's averaging 15 points. They pulled a great victory out over Kentucky, which puts them out on the map. But they are a good team. Richmond's not like the story. They're supposed to, I think, win the A10.
Yeah, they're really good. They lost one of their best players, Jacob Gilliard, I think is his name, Nick Sherrod, to an ACL. But they're really good, and they're not really under the radar. Like most national media people know all about them. They're expected to be very good. But yeah, it's cool to see a local guy doing that. Nice, great win to go to Kentucky. I don't care what year it is, what the circumstances are. As a player and as a program to go into Rupp Arena and beat them, it's just got to be awesome for them.
Connor Wither.
Yep.
He's another one. You're familiar with him. You want to talk a little bit about him? He's a Osborne graduate.
Yeah, Connor was he's an under the radar. He was an under the radar guy in high school. He's an example of a guy that went to a post-grad program. He went to Massanutten, and the type of kid that could really benefit from it because he didn't play. Let's face it. No offense to Rocky. We're all public school coaches. Like college coaches don't flock to public schools looking for kids. They just don't. And then he didn't play for like a high-profile AAU and get on the circuit and all that stuff. So he went to Massanutten for a year and did well there. And he's at UMass Lowell, and he actually was on the all-freshman team last year in the Northeast Conference, and he's starting for them this year. So he's doing well. Jonas Munson from West Potomac, big kid, like 7 feet. He's legit 7-footer. He's at Central Arkansas. Last I checked, I don't think they had played any games because of COVID. I think they had whatever, like 4 of them canceled. But he's another local kid. Kevin, who else you got?
Holman Smith, which is somebody maybe our listeners out there don't necessarily know, but he did graduate from George Mason High School, one of the smaller schools in our area. And he walked on at JMU. Good for him. Holman Smith, George Mason. And
their season's been paused.
Yeah, they're in pause, and they have a new arena. I heard.
Yeah, brand new arena, and nobody can go into it. And they were supposed to play Maryland yesterday, but they had a COVID case, so their season's on pause right now.
And one last name, Brian. I'll let you talk about him, but I'll mention him, and that's Matthias Prock, graduate from McLean. Tell us a little bit about him.
Matthias, similar to Connor and some of the other kids on this, he was not highly recruited out of high school, had the usual list of D3 schools, Kevin, that you and I are familiar with, and that all the Northern Virginia coaches are familiar with. But I think wanted to explore if he could play at another level. So he went to Fork Union for a year, and it worked out for him to be an invited walk-on at Maine. They were supposed to open their season with Virginia, which would have been awesome. I think at one of those Bubbleville-type games. But they were immediately put on pause, so they haven't played a game yet either at Maine. I think they're not supposed to open up until like the 12th or the 14th. But sources close to the program, Kevin, tell us that, geez, I get some time for them, which would be great for a walk-on. So one of the things that jumps out at me, Kevin, is when you look at this list, almost every kid, not all, but the majority of these kids either played like a post-grad year, transferred while they were in high school, like private back to public, or transferred after they got to college. And we've talked about that, for years. That is just kind of part of the landscape now. It's very unusual to find a kid that goes to like one high school for 4 years and goes to one college for 4 years. I mean, it's hard to find. If you look on a college roster, it'd be really interesting to look at each kid's story because everybody moves around either while they're in high school or while they're in college.
I agree. That transfer is just part of the game. And as old coaches, we can't get salty about that. That's just the way it is. But
yeah, it is the way it is. Hey, Kevin, should we throw a disclaimer out there real quick?
Yeah. If we miss somebody, your coach or your parent or your friend, if we missed your D1 player, we apologize. These are just some names that came to us immediately. And you know what I will say, Brian, people say there's not a whole lot of Division I players in public school anymore, but this is a pretty darn good list. And I'd listed out if I was a coach or if I was a parent and I was in that conversation with somebody. So we're all about promotion. We're all about making sure people know that we have a great product here in Northern Virginia. This is great evidence of that.
Yeah, we do. And Kevin, if you make a list over the years, there's a ton of good players. And so I think that's a bunch of crap, honestly, if people say you never get, good players, Division I players out of the public schools. You absolutely do. If you get more out of the privates, yeah, but just because of the nature of it. But you get plenty of good players out of the public schools as well.
Very true. Very true. So, Brian, moving on, I think we want to talk a little bit about COVID and the question.
No, let's not talk about COVID.
Well,
What's this COVID thing?
We've got to talk about
I know.
what it means to coach during COVID, how that's going to affect players, how that's affecting teams, just some things that I think people need to be aware of as we move into uncharted waters here starting Monday.
Can I ask you a question? Because as an administrator, and I think I texted you about this. So you see all these games, like I feel like college basketball right now is hanging by a thread. I mean, it's just so many games are getting canceled and teams put on pause. But like that happens because they test, I don't know, three times a week, or probably more often at some of the larger schools, because the whole testing process costs money.
A lot of money.
So in high school, like you don't have all this testing going on. So I'm assuming that in high school, you're not going to find out about COVID cases unless a kid actually shows symptoms, or a coach or something like that. So what you could have in high school is kids running around playing that are asymptomatic, that you won't catch until later. So you risk them spreading it. Whereas in college, they're testing people all the time. So the players might be asymptomatic, but they're getting tested 3 times a week. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any reaction, if they've talked about those scenarios in your meetings or what.
No, I think it's a great question. I think you're right. A lot of kids are going to have COVID while they're in season, and we're just not going to know it. And I don't know that there's any way around that. Obviously, we don't have the money and the resources like,
right.
Only Division I does. Nobody else does.
Yeah, you're right.
We don't really talk about it, but, a lot of Division III basketball has been canceled already, as has Division II. So, yeah, you're going to have kids who are bringing it in the building, and we're just going to have to wait till kids have symptoms. There's nothing you can do. There's no testing.
Yeah.
We have all the precautions we can in the world. And something I'm passionate about, Brian, and I put it out on Twitter, is, the kids need to be a part of this whole process. I think the adults are doing everything they can. I'm, here in my office, I'm looking at thermometers, I'm looking at gloves, I'm looking at the forms the kids have to fill out. But it's real important that kids and players outside of the gym are real committed to their seasons, and that means they might not be able to go and do exactly what they want. So, they don't bring it into their teams and into the program, because, it could really quickly, as you mentioned in Division I, the whole thing could crumble very quickly in high school.
Yeah, it could derail everything. And you're right. I mean, just personal responsibility. And, there's no guarantees of anything. You could take all the precautions and personal responsibility in the world and still get it. But you're right. Everybody needs to do their part. And Kevin, I'll say this. I know you have a son who's out and about. I know he's home now, but he's in college. And I have 2 kids that are out of the house. And I've told them, look, there's this sense that, the vaccine's right around the corner. I've told my own kids, don't let your guard down now. I know it's very hopeful, the vaccine, but you still got to maintain all those precautions, until people actually get vaccinated. So as we know on the news and everything, it's still going to be several months and into the spring before, we reach that point. So I think sometimes there's a tendency to just relax for a moment and say, okay, the vaccine's on the way, but it's not here yet. So.
Well, let me ask you some questions, Brian, as somebody who's still coaching. Do you coach differently this year? For example, do you keep a bigger bench because maybe you feel like some kids might go down with COVID and might not be available? Or do you, do you worry about things like I've heard from coaches, they're worried about kids maybe not playing this year because football is right behind basketball and the season's, so compact, and football is their number one sport, and they're worried a little bit about getting hurt in basketball. And have coaches talked to you about that yet? Have you thought about any of those issues?
You know, they haven't talked to me about that. I mean, they've been so preoccupied with just the main question of, are we going to have our season? Because there's so many rumors flying around. So now, if I'm a coach, and I'm not coaching this season because I'm getting ready, you know, for the postgrad program next year, but I'm going around and talking to a lot of coaches and watching a lot. And I think part of what you have to do is you have to ask yourself the worst case scenario. And you always have to do that as a coach, like if we have a kid get injured or something like that. But this year's different. I mean, like you could find out, you know, on a game day or day before a big game, two of your kids are sick and they're going to be out for whatever, 10 days. So yeah, I think you definitely have to have a plan, and whether that means, you know, you have some kids. I'll tell you one thing Mike Barbie does at Fairfax sometimes is he has some JV kids that like once or twice a week come up and practice with the varsity. Now, I don't know that he does that every year, but like this might be a year that you do that you're trying to kind of integrate some of those kids. So they're almost like on a taxi squad, like they're ready. So if you have to go to kids like that, it's not a shock and you're not just throwing them into the fire without any preparation. So I think things like that are reasonable this year. And you do raise a question like, do you carry a slightly bigger roster this year? You know, maybe you only carry 12 usually. Maybe you carry 13 or 14 this year, or maybe you carry more on your JV team just so you have some extra kids down there. I think those are reasonable things those are just basketball issues. Those are not even really all the protocol type things that are also going to impact how you coach. But yeah, I think you have to anticipate, because you don't want to lose games, you know, because if you lose games, I think in high school, it's going to be hard to get them back. And you might be able to talk about that a little bit too, because you're probably going to be playing more games in a shorter period of time. And so if you lose some games for COVID, it's going to be tough.
I think as far as scheduling goes, I think we're going to try to do what they're doing in college. Hey, you can't play Tuesday because you're COVID. Let me find somebody else. And we told coaches, maybe you're playing the same team 4 times because they're healthy. And if you want to get games, that's just the way it is. So everyone's got to be flexible. I feel like the adults are doing everything they can possible. Again, we need the kids to come along for the ride and be disciplined when that's not something you and I had to think about when we were in high school. But it is a commitment by a lot of different people. And I wanted to mention some of the protocols being put into place. I'm sure they're being done at all the counties the same way because all those counties are talking to one another. But, you know, there's no spectators this year, which is interesting. You know, that'll be a different feel for high school. You know, and the NBA, you can pipe in music and sound and stuff, but it's going to be very quiet. You know, LeBron said being in the bubble was kind of like being in an AAU tournament. I kind of feel like that's going to be the same for high school.
Right.
Well, not many people there, you know, just players and coaches. And I think we're doing everything we can protocol-wise, and I'm just hoping we make it through. You know, but I think spectators are going to be interesting for kids to adjust to because that's a big part of playing in high school is having a crowd, especially you know, that have good crowds.
Well, Kevin, it reminds me of at the NOVA Challenge. I don't know when we started playing music during the game. I don't know if we did it the first year.
We did it at Centerville was the first time, I think. Yeah,
because when you have a game when there's no, like at the NOVA Challenge, there's people there, but they're not really cheering for a team. So they don't make a lot of noise. And so we just thought it was kind of awkward for coaches and players that there's all these people sitting there watching, but there's no cheering. So that's when we made the decision, well, let's put some music. And I know we had a couple of people say, hey, turn the music off. But it's weird playing when it's totally quiet. So I wonder if any of that has been talked about. Like, will people play the music, or you can't really pipe in? You can't really, I guess, in this day and age, somebody could find a way to pipe in crowd noise in a high school game, I guess. But
and I think people are doing creative stuff. I know that I've heard some sports talking about doing their events on Facebook Live so parents can watch it.
Right.
Here in Loudoun, just by chance last year, the NFHS network came in and installed cameras for free in all our gyms and actually in our stadiums as well. And that'll allow parents to watch that from home. Now
Mm-hmm.
they pay the network to see the games, but
Right.
it'd be pretty cool to pipe some audio in there, maybe some crowd noise, something like that. But I don't know if with everything going on, I don't think it'll happen this year. It's funny.
Yeah.
The parents were upset saying, "Now I got to pay to watch my kid play," and it just was coincidence. It didn't happen. We didn't go out and actively seek a way to make.
Didn't they have to pay beforehand to watch their kid play?
Yeah, they had to pay $6.
Yeah.
Now they have
Kevin,
to.
are you going to have anything in place if somebody wants to yell at a coach or at an official? Can they virtually do that somehow?
No, it'll probably be interesting. Be some of our louder coaches out there will be definitely be the only ones you can hear in a gym. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, pause. Whoop.
Oh.
I didn't say that.
No.
I didn't say that. Hey, now let me say something about the game itself, Kevin. So this year, if you have a good returning group, like veteran guys that have been with you, I think you're going to have a huge advantage because everything's compacted. And, if you've got a bunch of young guys, this is the idea of, bringing them along and how long it takes to install different things in practice. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to do that. So I think if you've got a couple of veteran guys, if you're bringing back 3 or 4 starters that already know all the stuff you like to run, I think you're going to have a huge advantage. I think the game itself, as we've seen, even watch some of these college games, it's a little sloppy at times. And I think you're going to see that too in high school. It's kind of like as a coach, when you go out for your first scrimmage and you have like 30 turnovers or something. I think we're going to see more of that. But I know everybody will be excited just to have the opportunity to play, but it's probably not going to be a high level, high quality of it's not going to be a lot of clean basketball, I don't think.
I think you're right. I think the bottom line is we just have to be happy that we've been given a chance, and I'm excited about tomorrow. And Brian, switching gears, I want to start talking about our previews. I want to start off with Loudoun. I've talked to some coaches in our area and got some information on who's looking good this year. The bigs are back is what my theme is going to be.
Well, Kevin, before we jump into that, can you just kind of give us a review of the landscape of Loudoun? Because I know there's 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A. You got a lot of different levels represented in Loudoun.
Well, everyone makes the joke that we build a school every year in Loudoun, so it is confusing.
I think it's 2 a year.
Yeah, it's slowing down a little bit. I don't know the plans for the next school, but we do have schools that play 3A, 4A, 5A, and 6A in Loudoun. The 3A schools are your newer schools. Brand new this year is Light Ridge High School, coached by Brian Washington.
Where are they located? Give me a little frame of reference.
They call it Dulles South, but off Route 50 near Freedom and Champ, very close to the schools. Also near the new Paul VI. So you've got 4 high schools. Aldi
area, kind of.
What's that?
Aldi area, kind of.
Aldi. That's probably their address, but
All right.
High schools, very close, very big high schools down there, very close to one another. Population has blown up.
All right. So Brian Washington.
Great guy. Very happy that he got the job.
Where was he? Do you know where he was?
He's been a couple different places. He's coached in Loudoun. He's coached in Winchester. He's been at Rock Ridge, Briarwoods, different places, but a really good guy. Happy for him. Light Ridge. They have the great – I've seen their colors. They're the UCLA colors. It looks great in basketball. So they're starting this year in 3A. Independence is a second-year school. They're also in 3A. And they've got some talent. They're young and talented. They've got a sophomore who played a lot last year as a freshman, Wesley Williams, and junior twins, Brad and Jack Gagan. So they're a solid 3A team, and I think they're playing – I know they're playing the Loudoun County schedule. They'll be playing some of the bigger schools during the regular season, and then they'll go to 3A in the postseason. But interesting about Independence, they are moving from 3A to 5A. Next year they'll be in 5A because they're the third largest school in Loudoun. So
they're skipping right over 4?
What's he skipping right over 4? Yeah, crazy. Right. Crazy. Moving on into 4A, that's your Dulles district. Favorite this year is Dominion. And I mentioned it's the theme this year in Loudoun is the bigs are back, and you've got some really big, strong, experienced players at Dominion. We saw them playing Fall League over at the End Zone. They've got some serious hype, Brian. They've got the Matheny brothers, Will, who's 6'6", and his brother Colby, who's 6'8". They've got Aiden Edwards. They got Justin Mann. They have a big team. When I saw them walking in, they looked like a college team to me, and they play hard. They're very fundamental, not flashy, but I think around the league, people say on paper they're the team to beat in the Dulles.
I like seeing some size, and I like seeing size when they use it like around the basket, and they don't just run around and want to be like all the NBA guys and be 6'10", two guards or
Right.
3 men. So it's nice to see some size come back.
It's interesting, a lot of teams in Loudoun, both in 4A and 5A, had a lot of seniors last year. And Dominion was one of those teams that was senior heavy, but they have a good group coming back, and I think that's kind of why they're a favorite. Their junior class is now senior class. Also in the mix is another team that we saw over at the End Zone, Loudoun County, coached by Mark Alexander. I really like things that Mark's done with this program. Last year they were 21-6. They won the district. They won the region. They lost in the state tournament to GW Danville in a very close game. And they've got to really replace their point guard. Matt Anderson, who's at Shenandoah University right now as a freshman, was a starting point guard for 4 years. And I think that's their question mark right now. They've got some guards here trying to fill that spot, but they also have some good returning talent, notably Caleb Rexroad, who was all-district last year, and Nate Brown, who had a good offseason as well. So look for big things.
Yeah, as a coach, Kevin, that's a huge issue for you. If you've got a guy that's been your point guard for 4 years and you really haven't had to worry about that, and all of a sudden – it's exciting to have somebody there, but
you don't worry about getting pressed. You don't worry about getting the offense. He's a problem solver. So I think they're gonna also be in the mix. They'll have a good year. Other teams in the mix, Heritage. They've got arguably one of the better players in the league, and Max Janis. We talked about him last couple of years. He's finally a senior. He's been on varsity for a while. A point guard that you saw play, Brian, over at the End Zone, Blake Rohr, who was
I like him.
Yeah.
So a little bit of a throwback. I thought it was kind of old school, scrappy, maybe in the mold of a young Kevin Weir back in his brother on playing days.
No, he's talented, and I was not. An interesting team this year, coached by John Costello and Pat Cassidy over at Broad Run this year. The Spartans are young, but they've got some talent. They've got Arnav Thornhill, who got hurt last year. He's also a football player. He'll start at point. Can handle the ball, can score a little bit. And a name I want people to know out there, Mateen Purdue. He's 6'3". He started last year. He's going to be a very good player for Broad Run. And then they've got, we talked about transfers. They have Eli Will, who spent last year's freshman year at Independence. He's back at Broad Run. So a young, scrappy team. And as we know, Coach Costello always gets his kids to play hard. Mm-hmm. And then last but not least, what's that?
How about Tuskegee?
The Tuskegee Huskies. Jack Clark, all-district last year. He played for the Nova Cavs. I think we saw him play at a scrimmage in the spring. Can score.
He can
shoot it. Yeah, I think you liked him one game.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's probably Player of the Year candidate along with Janice and maybe somebody from Dominion or maybe Caleb Rexroad. But they're going to be good this year, and if they have success, it's because of Jack Clark. And then last but not least, Loudoun Valley. They've been so strong the last couple of years with transfers, and they had a good point guard and Trent Dawson, who was at the helm for a couple of years. He's now at Roanoke. We'll see what they have. They had only a couple of returners back from last year, but they've got some work to be done. But they've got some young talent. They've got a big kid. The Hall kid is probably about 6'8" now, and he's been playing some AAU. So we'll see. Loudoun Valley is, like you mentioned, very young. We'll see how they can get seasoned very quickly. But right now, on paper, I'd say it's Dominion for the Dulles.
5A.
5A, you got the Potomac District, and another team on paper is Rockridge. Rockridge is the favorite team, led by Greg Spurlock. He signed with Coppin State, a very athletic kid. But he's not the only one. They kept 12 juniors last year, Brian. I don't know how many seniors they're going to keep last year. So a lot of kids in the program, notably Sam Larson, who had an older brother who played at Rockridge and graduated, was their point guard. And then Evan Fitch, younger brother of Alex Fitch, So, they've got a lot of talent, and people have been talking about them all summer and spring. So Rock Ridge is the team to beat.
Yeah, and goes back to what I mentioned earlier with that many returners and all those juniors, and a lot of them played last year. I'm sure they might have an advantage, especially early on,
right,
in these circumstances.
Right. Also in the mix, there's a lot of questions. I don't think there's any clear favorite after that. So I'm just in no specific order. Talk about Riverside. I think they'll be solid with shooter Michael Ziller. Been on varsity since a sophomore. Jamie Intamoa is a junior who's long, lanky, blocks a lot of shots, can finish around the basket. I think really important for the Rams this year is Quentin Avila. Awesome kid, tore his Achilles. It might even have been a scrimmage this past year, or the first game maybe. But he's back. He's a good post presence. And him along with Entamo in the middle, again, the bigs are back. I think they could have a good year for the Rams. Next up, one of our favorites, Potomac Falls, Brian. Coach Hawes lost, I think, 95% of his scoring last year, including his son, Landon, who was a great player, who is now at Christopher Newport. They do have some good news. They have Jake Mancuso, who transferred from Dominion, a very good big guy, good footwork around the basket, a solid backcourt with Aiden Carillion, and shooting guard Nolan Liebenhagen. And also, the thing about Jeff is they kind of reload. He's got a machine. He's got it up and running. And last year they had a 21-1 JV team, and he's got a lot of those kids coming back. So
that helps.
Just when you think that Potomac Falls is out, they do their stuff. They're well coached, and they're going to be in the mix for sure.
Kevin, he's everywhere, by the way. They've been playing. Like, I saw Coach Hawes and his group over at End Zone. You were there. He was coaching his team over there. And then I went down to Harrisonburg to watch a kid play for postgrad possibilities. And Jeff was down there. He had a team down there. So everywhere I go, he does love it. I mean, he's all over the place. And,
if you had two kids who go through the program, he can retire.
Right.
He's not hanging around for the money. He does it because he loves Potomac Falls basketball. So we'll see how they put it together. The last four teams, you got another good big guy, Carter Phillips from Briar Woods. They lost a ton of seniors, including 2,000-point scorers. So we'll see what they can do. They also have Robert Glenn, who's going to have a good year. Stonebridge has some good guards. They lost Isaiah Rhodes, who's also at CNU, to graduation, but they have a very quick guard and Dylan Hundermark. They have good guards in Jacob Thomas and Cole DeVito. So we'll see what they can do. I think they're a question mark, but they definitely have talent. Freedom High School, our friend Justin Powers graduated a ton from their senior class, but they have two young guys back, Alec Bachman, who will be a sophomore, and one of my favorite players to watch, junior Elijah Easter. We saw him over at End Zone. What do you think about him, Brian?
Oh, he can play, and I think Freedom, we've said this before, I think their program has kind of hit their stride, that they believe in their coach and their system. I think everybody buys in, and you know how that is. I mean, I think I'll speak from personal experience. You might be able to relate. I was in a program that had that. I was in a program that didn't have that. It's hard. Yeah.
We had that. Why did we leave that again? Tell me.
I know. Good question. But,
we had it up decided
up and running, everybody buys in, and then you go somewhere else. And it's hard to do it at multiple places. We've learned that. But anyway, I kind of see that when I watch them play. They really all seem to be on the same page, and they're just going to get better. I mean, both those two guys you mentioned, they're neither one of them is a senior, right?
No, sophomore and junior, and younger brother of Angelo Easter.
Right.
Had a bad injury last year and didn't get to play in football, so he missed the football season. But Elijah got stronger. I actually saw him go up and dunk. So he's got great body control like his brother, and I think he's going to have a great year. Rounding out the 5A Potomac District, you have Woodgrove. Coach Steve Douglas, great guy, stepped down after doing it for a lot of years. They brought in a very experienced coach in Hanley, ex-Hanley coach Jason Toten. who's he did great things with the Hanley program, comes over the mountain, as they say, Brian, to this side of the mountain, and inherits a very young Woodgrove team. One guy stands out as Jack Dewey. He's a shooter. He can score for him, but, you know, a lot of question marks, not a whole lot of varsity returners for them with experience. So that wraps up your 5A. Again, you got Rock Ridge and then a lot of question marks, but anyone can take it this year in the Potomac.
And you only have one 6A school, right?
Only one 6A school. That's Champ, who's the largest high school in Fairfax County. They play in the Cedar Run, but last but not least, they're good, Brian. Another team we saw play in the offseason, they're led by twins James and Jalen Jasper. Two listeners of the show, I know. Shout out to those guys. Thank you guys for always supporting us. But they're fun to watch, Brian. They are quick. They can score. They play hard on defense. And they're going to lead the way for Champ this year for sure.
They're both kind of fearless too, you know. I like that about them.
I agree.
They're never scared of the moment.
Yeah. And Champ is a large school, so there's other people contributing. I did hear they got some transfers from Tuscarora, Jaden and Jalen Smith, who are good players at Tuskegee, who are now at Champ. I know they have a good current ninth grade class as well, and they like to get up and down the floor. When we saw them play in the spring and the summer, they were, you know, pushing that ball, and they're going to be very quick and athletic this year.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll hear more about them probably when we talk about the Prince William team. So that's a wrap-up of Loudoun. A lot of seniors graduating. We got some talent back, but a lot of good bigs, so it'll be fun to watch.
Thank you, Kevin, for that comprehensive stat report on Loudoun County.
Thank you. I'm gonna turn it over to you in what we're calling a new segment that we're calling Doyles Dimes, where we decided we each get a little segment to get on our soapbox and talk about what we want to do. I'll do mine next week. But this.
Well, I have a suggestion for your segment for the name of it. I don't know if you're going to go with it or you're going to change it.
All right.
And one with Weirin.
Do I go and one?
Yeah.
We need Buffalo back to give us some graphics because
That's right.
we could have like an and one clip. Or
you can change it. So the good thing about this segment is I can just talk about whatever I want to talk about.
All right, we don't
that's
have
the only rule.
But it's Doyles Dimes, right? Doyles Dimes.
Okay, so here's my first dime. I want to mention a player that I think we all know about, but I think he's ready to kind of burst on the scene even in a bigger way. Is that Jamie Kaiser from Lake Braddock? He plays 3 sports. He's a football quarterback. He's participated in some of these Elite 11, like I don't think the national level camps, but some of these quarterback camps. He plays baseball. He plays basketball. He plays for Durant AAU. He picked up offers in basketball from Southern Utah and Coastal Carolina during his AAU season. He picked up a football offer from UNC Charlotte, or maybe they just go by Charlotte now. And I don't know how good he is at baseball. I assume he's pretty good too. But the kid can play. He's like 6'3", 200, sophomore. And I sat on the bench. We, obviously at Fairfax, we were in their district. And I think when we played them in the playoffs, he might hit like 5 threes in the first half. I mean, he's good. And so that's just, as I've kind of looked at players and was kind of getting ready for our Hootcast and for the season, I know we always talk about David Solomon at Lake Braddock, justifiably so. And I think Quincy Villa is a really good point guard. I like the way he plays. But Jamie Kaiser is really good. I think he's going to not that he's unheard of. I mean, people know who he is, but I think he's ready to really be an elite level player. You can comment on any of these dimes.
I did see. I was at your district game when Fairfax played.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, when you guys played over at Lake Braddock.
Yeah.
You guys kind of hit a tsunami there. They played really well, and I do remember Jamie Kaiser, and he's huge. He's a man.
Yeah, he's big and strong. Yeah.
He's matured into his body, very quickly.
So I just kind of see him as the next, like, really, really good player in Northern Virginia high school basketball.
I agree.
Okay, I got one more dime. Well, it's kind of two. It's kind of a two-parter. So we talk about rules changes all the time on here, and I know our friend Scott Bach-Hansen and Adam Brick and the inadvertent whistle guys, we talk to them about rules changes. I'm not going to talk about the one we always talk about.
Shot clock.
Yeah, I don't feel like talking about that anymore. But there's two that just came to my mind. One we've talked about before is the whole dunking and warm-ups thing. I think it's time. And I don't know, I think I saw a couple technicals on TV in college for hanging on the rim, which that's a different rule and a different story. But I just think to ask the officials to come in during warm-ups, and, you have some that enforce it, some that don't, some that blow the whistle when they walk in the gym, even though they're not supposed to. Some that if you just have some kid that touches the rim, they make a big deal of it, and others are kind of lax about it. I just think it's time. We have breakaway rims. Everybody can dunk. And I think I said this before from personal experience. Some of my highlights of my high school career came probably in warm-ups. Dunking the ball in warm-ups.
Wait.
What?
Are you talking about a dunk in warm-ups?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think it's time to do away with that rule and just let the coaches regulate that stuff and not have it be a technical foul.
I agree.
I agree.
So that's that was, before the technology we have with breakaway rims and them wanting, things to not go wrong right before a game. But I agree. I think it's a complicated rule.
And as I get older, it's okay. It's kind of fun. It's fun for the kids. It's fun for the fans. Now, I think as a coach, I might say, okay, once we hit like the 10-minute mark, no more dunking. Let's, whatever. I think coaches can handle that how they want to handle that, and I get that. But I think, just do away with the rule and don't put it on the officials anymore. Here's my other one that I don't know why it popped into my mind, but I wonder, what do you think about increasing the number of fouls to foul out from 5 to 6? And now I understand that, like in college or certainly in the NBA, it's 6 and they have much longer games. It's still 5 in college. But I don't know. I don't know why it occurred to me, but I think we want kids to be on the floor, and, with COVID, it's made me think about how much kids have lost the opportunity to play up to this point. Hopefully they get it back, but I don't know. I wonder if there's any harm in increasing that from 5 to 6.
I would never think of that. I don't think of that as a needed rule. I think you're coming up with something just because you're bored. I also think to say that it's something we need because of COVID kind of speaks to a little bit of a softness. I mean, we're going to change everything for COVID.
Wow. I didn't say we need it because of COVID. It just kind of made me think about it. So you've basically shot that one down.
I have. I don't see the need for it. And the fact that you use COVID as an excuse speaks to hot button on me where everything has to change. Should we have different times for different rules?
Kids these days are soft.
Right. Draw the line.
Okay. All right. Well, so we know where I was just throwing it out there for comment, and you certainly commented on it.
Right. Well,
I look forward to the first segment of And1 with Weirin.
I'm sure you break it down and have your own opinion, but
I'm coming for you.
Good. Well, I think we should wrap up. I try to be aware of time, and I think we've gone over 40 minutes.
Okay, that's pretty long.
Span, and then COVID is lower because you can't expect people to have a big attention span in COVID. So we're probably on 45 minutes, which is a little longer than we want. But let's wrap it up, Brian. Next week, what are we going to talk about?
Well, we got to preview probably another county. Who we gonna look at next week?
I don't know. Maybe we got to do Fairfax or Prince William. So maybe we'll talk later offline. Let's continue preview. We'll have our first week of the season under our belts.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be really interested to see just how the first week goes, and talk. Let's both try to talk to some coaches during the week and get some feedback, because it's different. Times are different, so I kind of want to hear. I know there's all kinds of protocols. The first day of tryouts is always tough. Does everybody have their physicals in and all that stuff? But I think it's going to be that times 10 probably with COVID protocols.
Brian, I appreciate you taking time out on this Sunday morning.
It's time to go. It's time to go sanitize and wash my hands.
That's right. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Hopefully, Buster will be back to make us look better. See ya.